Welcome back to Mental Health Matters with me. This is a brand new episode, and this time we are going to be talking about communication. I know that communication is something that is a part of our lives. Communication is something that we do every day, and we do it effortlessly because as human beings, that's how we cope, that's how we live, that's how we survive, through communication, through interaction with whoever and whatever it is that we come across. And I think that's the very same reason why some of us don't value communication, or some of us don't regard communication as something that is important, because it's as breathing. It's like you're breathing. It's part of what we do, and it's obvious in most cases. So why then do we have to think about communication as something that is valuable and something that impacts us, something that impacts our mental health? That is the big question, and that is exactly why I made this to address this and help us to look into why communication is so important. First of all, it's important to value that communication in itself is an expression of who you are. It's an expression of all that you embody. It's an expression of everything that you've been through. It's an expression of where you are right now, and also an indication of where you're going. It doesn't take a lot. The minute someone communicates, when you meet someone new, when you get to know new people, and obviously that is through communication, you will communicate with those people something about yourself, and they will communicate something about themselves. And through that, both people, or both parties, individuals, are able to build something, to see if there's something out of that. But what is something that is going to show all of that potential? Definitely communication. And whenever we meet people and we see people, whatever it is that was communicated by the person before we encounter them, or the last time we encountered them, it sticks. And this then helps you to build an idea and a perspective of what kind of person is that person? What kind of person am I dealing with? So this is just an example to show you why communication is something that will always be valuable, will always be important. And it's not that deep also. I think sometimes when we talk about communication, and we have all these words, people tend to make them too scientific. You classify it as a science, you classify it as something that is medical, you classify it as something that is historical. I can go on, philosophical. And the minute we start doing that, then we don't allow much space for us to learn and be teachable about our own communication, which leads to being teachable about our own mental health system. And I always say this, which can be controversial most of the time. And what I always say is how you communicate with other people. How you communicate with other people is an indication, is an expression, is a symbol of how you communicate with yourself. And so many times this doesn't quite make sense, to so many people, because how can you say that to someone or people that don't necessarily know themselves? Or we can say people that have not really figured themselves out. If you say that to someone who is not in that process of learning more about themselves. Remember, I spoke about being teachable and learning. I think those are the two key words we can take from this, being teachable and learning. So if you don't come across such, it's very difficult to then communicate that and say, oh, by the way, the way you communicate is an indication of how you communicate with yourself, because people take things literally. When we think about communication, we think about talking to other people. So does she mean that the way I talk to myself is the way I talk to people? It doesn't make sense, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the values, the foundation of your communication, the way you communicate, it's an indication. You might not use those words, of course, that you use with other people. You might not use them with yourself, but the theme is still the same. There's still an underlying theme. There's still a pattern. There's a pattern. Whenever you talk, and you could be talking to anybody. You could be talking to someone that you regard as a high up, or someone that is a form of authority. You could be talking to a friend. You could be talking to a sibling and whatever. But even though your communication changes based on the ideas and the perceptions and the roles that you have, that the ideas that you have and the roles that these people play, still there is a pattern that indicates how you communicate with yourself. And that's what I also just wanted to break down, because when you are the kind of person that is avoidant, a person that, oh, I don't want to talk about the serious stuff, and I don't want to talk about things that are too intense and whatever, and I just want to joke around, and I just want to do that. That energy, that ability to ignore the serious things when they happen. And keep in mind, I'm not saying that for all of us, we should be, always heavy and deep in talking about the deepest things and the heaviest things. But I'm talking about when there is a situation, a serious situation, that needs to be addressed, that you know deep down inside, and you feel it deep down inside that it needs to be addressed, and you choose not to. And that's what you do in your environment. That's what you do with whoever and whatever it is that comes across you. That is an indication of the fact that you have issues within. You have things that you avoid and you cover up inside within your mental health system that you would rather not deal with, and you just make excuses, or you do things that will move you away from the most fundamental things. So that is just an example. On the contrary, if you're a person who just always deals, if something does not sit well with you, you try so hard to express it, you try so hard to communicate it, whether it's received well or not, you do what you can. That is an indication that if there's anything within your mental health system that is not sitting well with you, you are always trying to find ways. You're always trying to find things that you can use, that you can do to help aid those things and aid you actually to help you move forward, to help you do better, to help you be a better person. So that is just an indication. But how can we then see those kind of patterns in our environments and with the people around us if we don't learn and study our own communication? It's impossible to do that if you are not already practicing that within yourself. And I always say that when it comes to communication, think about it. It's not about you. It is just not about you. And for so long, for so long, before I came to realize this, I would hold on. And I still do it from time to time, because remember, I'm changing I'm actually changing a pattern. So what I would do is look at the reaction or the response that I'm getting. And I mean, most of the time you don't know what exactly is it that you're going to receive from people, and be it negative, positive, mixed emotions, and so on, it would affect me. And then I learned that actually it's not about their reaction, it's not about their response, it's about me, it's about what I'm communicating and the importance of it. So, what will settle my mind and help my mental health system to be at ease and not under pressure or suppressed and so on is to communicate what I needed to communicate in the best way that I possibly can. Speak my truth, speak whatever it is that I feel is important for me at that moment, so that I can be able to move on, so that I can be able to communicate about other things moving forward without feeling some type of way, or without feeling like, oh, I don't want to be thinking about that the next day and the next day and weeks to come, when I could have easily addressed it and moved on to other things. So what happens if we don't communicate? What happens if we don't express what we need to express? We either at the end express it in a way that is aggressive, in a way, let me rather not say aggressive, or let me not label what really happens, but what I can just say is, at the end of the day, for some people, or most people, what happens is that they will communicate something from a lot of pressure. Like, you are just now releasing, you are like blurting out, you are now bursting. I think that's the word that we mostly use. You are now bursting. And when you burst, it's because you have been suppressing, you have been bottling up for so long. And you are now communicating in a way that is completely unhealthy, because you've kept it in and you've kept it in. And I've done this for a very long time as well. And even in moments where I'm thinking that, oh, this kind of person is a down-to-earth person, and they don't really want to talk about their feelings. They don't really want to. So let me not express something. Let me not express it. This person won't get it, or this or that, or this is not the best place to express what I need to express, because it's going to be too much and whatever. And that caused so much harm to my own mental health system. That caused so much harm because I just kept on suppressing and suppressing and suppressing and suppressing. And this creates anxiety over time. This creates chronic stress and so many issues that will impact your mental health in the worst way ever. And I had to quickly learn, whenever I got burned by bursting out and having a complete meltdown, I had to quickly learn that I need to stay true to myself. I need to express what I need to express in that moment, in a healthy, in a honest, in a clean manner, in that moment, and move on. As to what is going to happen to the recipient, as to what is going to happen to the person that's receiving it, that is not my business, because they have their own way of communicating, and how they respond, it has nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do with their own communication style, their own internal dialogue. I had to quickly learn. And so as I move, wherever I am, whether it's in a public space, whether I'm buying something, whether I'm experiencing bad service or something like that, I will address it. As to whether something is going to be done about it or not, that does not concern me. I will express it because I need to stay healthy. I need to make sure that I am clear in my head space. I am cleared out emotionally, because I cannot carry that into the next day and into the next moment and into the next moment, and so on. So realizing this over time, and keep in mind, I said sometimes because you slip up sometimes. If you've had been doing the same thing for so many years, if you are this kind of you were that kind of person who would hold back, the kind of person who would suppress just to make sure that other people feel comfortable, and you wake up today and you decide to say, hey, this needs to stop, of course, it's going to be a process to try and break that pattern and form a new pattern. A new set of neurons in your brain, if we have to make it scientific, a new set of neurons in your brain, they need to come together and form into one, before we can say, you know what, this is this is now a habit. This is how I communicate. I express everything, every time, and in the best way that I can, and I move on. Before it forms into a habit, that old pattern needs to break. And sometimes you'll slip up, but you have to keep going, especially if you look at the benefits of it, especially if you look at how liberating it is and how it frees your mind. And so I think that is really the basics of communication. There's so much more when it comes to communication, because if you don't invest in getting the basics right, which is learning about your own communication style, your own internal dialogue, then how can you understand the ways in which you communicate with others? How can you understand others and their communication style? How can you even understand why you engage in the things that you engage in? Why are you interested in the things that you're interested in? That is also an exchange of communication. You know, there was a period of time where there were so many talks about social media and how toxic and everything it can be. And definitely I was part of those people, and I still believe that it can be toxic. But what I can say is that it can be toxic based on your communication style, based on your level of mental health. Where are you? Are you mentally healthy enough to get into these spaces and absorb all kinds of information? Do you know what kind of information are you looking for in those spaces that is going to help you build you, help you grow? And I literally also had to take that decision. How can I find a way to only engage in things that I'm interested in, things that are helping me grow, things that are helping me improve my own communication, things that are helping me improve my own mental health, not things that are deteriorating my mental health. So I was also able to learn that actually it's all about you. Social media, the media and the news and everything, it's just what it is. It has always been like that for decades, millions of years, whatever, since the beginning of time. But it's really how you approach it and how you communicate with it that changes everything. And so this is what I just wanted to talk about, just the basics of communication, just for us to have a foundation and an understanding before we can go into ways in which our mental health is impacted by different aspects of communication. So thank you so much. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in our next episode. Bye.